I get into this video, I want to say that these are my own opinions on the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and I am not a lawyer by any means. I will say, however, that as a person with common sense, I am appalled by the prosecution. I am appalled. And because they have been consistently fumbling on trying to present Kyle Rittenhouse as guilty, or trying to manipulate people, specifically the jury, on based upon their own narrative. And no, I don't believe Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty. Far from it. He was completely innocent. He's justified in the shootings 100%. He tried to get away, and when there was no other option, he fired his weapon. And he was being constantly attacked. And again, the evidence shows this, not just in video footage, but also, and I would also like to add, video footage that actually came from an FBI drone in one case earlier during the trial, but also within the witness. I forgot how to pronounce his name. I apologize, but the witness was called by the prosecution, and he was the third person who was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse, who had his arm, his bicep shot off. And he basically said, within this case, that Kyle Rittenhouse did not shoot him when his hands were up, but he did shoot when he was pointing a gun at him. That alone imploded the case for the prosecution. And that was just, I think it was on day 3, but then came Kyle Rittenhouse and his testimony. And oh my god, I honestly feel bad for Kyle, because the prosecution tried to, I would say, bully him, tried to intimidate him, especially when, and I'm kind of shocked that a lawyer of all people would do this. Basically say, why did you come out and tell us your story before the trial? This kind of bullshit, because he was trying to violate Kyle Rittenhouse's Fifth Amendment rights. His Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Hell, that was part of the reason why Miranda v. Arizona, I think that's the case, basically why we now have the Miranda rights. How there are cops that are supposed to say you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you. And yet he dares to say that, why did you come out before? Why were you hiding? Despite, again, Fifth Amendment rights. And the judge exploded on him. And he exploded on a few other issues as well, such as presenting evidence despite the fact that the judge ruled such evidence as inadmissible. I can't remember what evidence. There are a lot of clips to be shown around the internet, and I will be posting some in the description below, but wow, the judge was not having it. And this prosecution, Bringer, I think it is, Lil Bringer, he just continued on with this whole entire charade. Basically, it shows to me from when I've been seeing with Kyle Rittenhouse, the clips that I've been seeing, and just me from time to time taking a look at the court case. The prosecution has nothing. They're intentionally trying to cause a mistrial. And I really do hope that the judge does what it was said, call a mistrial with perjury. Because here's the thing. From what I've been hearing from a lot of YouTube lawyers, basically lawyers who have YouTube accounts and have been looking at the case heavily. Sorry, I tried to put this in words. Mistrial by perjury means that the trial is trial ends. Basically, Kyle Rittenhouse is not guilty, and the prosecution cannot bring up these charges again. But in the case of the prosecution, they would want mistrial, but without perjury, because that means they can charge Kyle Rittenhouse again. And it doesn't help when the prosecution flat straight out admits that this is a political trial. And the day after the Kyle Rittenhouse's testimony, and that alone, it was just shocking in my opinion, with how the man has been holding on. The prosecution basically tries to intimidate, or at least in my opinion, intimidate one of the witnesses by trying to say, why didn't you bring such evidence? I forget what case it was, what instance it was. I forgot who the witness is. I think it had to deal with a guy with in terms of who was an expert in pixelated footage or something like that. I know that was introduced as part of the case, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But he says, why didn't you send the footage to us, and why did you get your lawyer to look at it? Which, again, violation of Fifth Amendment rights. And honestly, this prosecutor, it makes it look like that just practicing your Fifth Amendment rights implies you're guilty for some reason, or you have something to hide. Again, I am livid with this prosecutor. I really am. And this is coming from someone who has not studied law. I have not studied law. I have studied political science. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. But I do have common sense in the fact that this prosecutor is trying to hurt Kyle by any means, including the violation of his rights and other witnesses' rights, shocks me. If you were to tell me this, and I haven't seen any clips from Kyle Rittenhouse's trial, I would think that you were watching too many episodes of Law & Order SVU. But no, that is not the case. This prosecutor needs to be disbarred after this case. Kyle Rittenhouse needs to be free. 100%. Thankfully, I think the facts are on his side. The surveillance footage shows this. The witness testimony shows this. A lot of other witnesses have expressively show that Kyle Rittenhouse was in the right with this. I don't see how in the normal world, I don't see how Kyle Rittenhouse would be found guilty. I do not at all. And there's also some good news. There's some good news. One of the charges, such as the curfew charge, that he supposedly violated curfew, that was already dropped. And I would not be surprised if there were many more charges that would be dropped in the days to follow. But again, to point out to my fellow viewers, this would be in the most in the case right now with how the state of our country is, with BLM just threatening people, I would not be surprised if in fact, there's been evidence showing that there have been attempts to threaten the jurors. In the case of, in one case, there was a guy who, Cortez Rice, that's his name, who happens to be the nephew of George Floyd, who basically videotaped himself going to a judge's house, doxing them, and just being heavily supportive of trying to intimidate jurors, intimidate judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And earlier, there was an instance where the judge caught people filming jurors. I would not be surprised what bit that there would be a chance of intimidation. In fact, already right now, police are going around preparing for a potential riot of some kind, whether Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty or found not guilty, or found either guilty or not guilty. And yeah, that is definitely going to happen. 100%. We saw that before the Derek Chauvin case. It was a celebration riot. And this is why I really hate BLM. I pray to God that Kyle Rittenhouse makes it out. At the very least, he gets a misdemeanor. He gets a gun charge misdemeanor. But that's it. I pray to God that's all he gets at the very minimum. Because it's clear he did not kill anyone. He did not murder anyone. He was protecting himself. Wouldn't you do the same if a mob comes rushing at you, or in this case, 3 people come at you with skateboards, with guns? Would you try to defend yourself in that case? In my honest opinion, I would. I would do the same thing that Kyle Rittenhouse did, which would be defending myself. My name is Noah Meehan, not the Arc Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with friends. Also, if you have any issues regarding my videos, such as how I speak or anything whatsoever that I may improve upon, please post them down in the comment section down below or directly message me. Thank you.
Almost heaven.